Good day, Shave Cadre. It's Zeno Straight Shaver here, Dave. This video is going to not only be my shave of the day, but it also is addressing on a tutorial level some items for new straight shavers or even some of us old vets that run into problems sooner or later. We're talking about blade chatter. Now, basically what blade chatter is when you're using a blade, and this is my Whacker Chevalier, basically when you're going along your face, it starts sticking and then skipping. Now, this can be extremely dangerous if it happens, because a lot of times what we'll do is we'll overcompensate for the blade chatter, and it can end up with really nasty cuts. In fact, you can see one right here, and that was due to blade chatter. Three basic things cause blade chatter. One, the face itself is not hydrated. Two, the soap is not wet enough. Well, maybe four reasons. Three, the blade is not keen. And four, and most importantly, that the sebaceous glands have not been activated. Now, this idea came from Nurse Dave's journal as far as getting a lot of blade chatter as he's getting more and more involved with straight shaving. Certain comments were made, and I thought it was a good idea to go ahead and make this video. In my opinion, it could be a couple of things. Technique is one, which we'll go over. But most importantly, it's the sebaceous glands. Now, Dave being a nurse, he knows this, but for some of you newer straight shavers, your face, as well as any follicle in your body, has a gland. Inside that gland is it's the sebaceous gland. Inside that gland, you have sebum. Sebum is oil. Now, that oil helps lubricate the hairs on your face to shave, and it also helps lubricate things. So the key is with the sebaceous glands is you must have heat. You have to have heat to activate those glands. I'm a cold water shaver, but I still use heat in the beginning to get those glands to secrete that oil, which also helps your soap, which gives you a slick surface on your face. So even if you're a cold water shaver, even if you're a hot water shaver, the initial preparation is probably the most important thing that you can do when shaving with one of these bad boys. And the preparation we're going to go over in detail now. It's pretty much a three-step process. One, make sure your face is washed and dried in the shower using a good soap. Second, before your shave, I recommend a pre-shave lather and a hot towel. Now, I mean a hot towel, because that's going to get those sebaceous glands to really start pumping out that oil. And also, the most important part of your prep is the initial lather with the brush. So we're going to go over all that, and we're also going to talk about angle, what I call angle of attack. You should never be more than, roughly a spine width off of your face. Keep the blade in motion at all times. A lighter touch rather than a harder touch is going to get you the best results. And more importantly, between shaves, or between passes, I've seen people do this. They'll finish with the first pass. They'll immediately start lathering again. I personally don't recommend that. Rinse the face off after each pass. Make sure the face is wet. Two things are going to happen. One, it's going to leave that residual slickness depending on the soap that you have. And two, it's going to set you up with more hydration when you bring the brush back to your face for lathering in passes 2 and 3. That's my recommendation. I think it's a good one. And today we're going to be celebrating, I think, 1,029 as far as straight shaves are concerned. So those items, plus having a good quality soap. I said this earlier on the forums that the type of soap that you use for a DE or a single edge or any of your other razors may not be good enough for a straight razor. Plus, you don't need that thick, pillowy lather with a straight razor. You want something that's wet, slick, and thin. So, and we'll go over that throughout the thing. So those are the items that you want to look at when you're talking about blade chatter. Another way to look at blade chatter is the same way for those of you that hone razors. When you're honing a razor, the ultimate goal is to get that razor to stick to whatever medium you're on, whether it be a Cody, whether it be a J-Net, whether it be an Arkansas stone, doesn't make any difference. But when you finally get that blade to stick, that means that the bevel of the blade has met the surface of the honing medium, and it can't go any further. Hence, you get that stick. And also, if you keep pushing through it, what happens? The blade chatters. It's the same thing on your skin. Although the skin is not that smooth as far as the Arkansas stone or any of the other stones that you use, but The hydration part of it is the kicker. It would just be like, you know, putting something dry against your face. So in that respect, we'll go over all that. We'll come back with our shave. If you have any questions, just go ahead and put it in the comments here on the tutorial section, and we'll go from there. We'll be right back. Okay, we're back getting ready to do our straight shave for the day, continuing on with our topic of blade shatter. The razor has already been stropped. This is my Wacker Chevalier. You'll notice it's a little bit shorter on the blade length, which gives that some maneuverability concerns and also some dangers. And then also the front edge sticks out in a French point, so whatever the case may be. Today I'm using Tundra Article by Sepodvicchio Varasino. It has been soaking, as has my brush, and I'll shake out the majority of the water. And remember, we're talking about hydration. So what we're going to do is we're going to lather right in the container. Now, as most of you that use SV soaps, they're tremendous. I know some people have trouble depending on the water that they have at their house, but it doesn't take a lot of load. And SV recommends that you put about a teaspoon or float about a teaspoon of water on the top of the puck. Pour that water into the brush and load, and you shouldn't have to add any more water. I found that sometimes that's not necessarily true, but like I said, we've been loading for maybe, what, 30 seconds or so, and we're pretty much ready to go. Now, remember earlier we had spoken about getting the sebaceous glands to really start activating. So what I'll do is I'll actually do some warm water for my first portion of the rinse. I'll rinse my face, and I'll get it fairly wet. I'll take the XX soap from the lathering and put it on my face. Now, once we start massaging that in, it's going to start getting the glands activated. Now, these glands are going to say, oh, it's time to soften the whiskers, because people don't realize, or some don't, anyways, that facial whiskers have the tensile strength of steel in various forms. So yours may be more than mine, but the prep is the key, and you can get them just as soft. So I'll massage that in, and this is exactly what most barbers do in the barbershop. Now, a lot of people say, oh, the warm luxury shave. Well, there's a method behind the madness, because the hot water, as said earlier, stimulates the sebaceous glands, which causes the sebum, the oil, to rise to the surface. And once it does that, it really slickens the face. Okay, so now what I'll do is I'll do a hot towel to really make it even more. Now, there's a couple ways you can do this. You can heat them in the microwave, which is what I do, or heat them in hot water. I find that 2 minutes in the microwave gets a really, really hot, steamy towel. You don't have to have it too wet, and then just wrap it. Now, you may not be able to hear me very well, but I rub this in. Once again, this is allowing the oils to come out in the face, and that soap to soften and work with the sebum. Now, you'll notice that I won't rinse again when I apply the lather. Now, when I'm applying this lather, I am working it in. Most of you guys know how to do this, but spend some time on this portion of the lather. It will set up the rest of the shave. If you need to add water to slicken it up, that's fine too. Please do that, because like I said, you want almost a shiny, almost an oily thickness to your soap. This is going to prevent that blade shatter that some people have trouble with. So spend some time with this. And obviously straight shaving takes a little bit more time to begin with. But this will get the oils in your skin, the sebum, the soap on your face, and the hydration to work well. And also, as KJ had put it, and I think most of us that lather on a regular basis talk about, is the paintbrush strokes at the end. This will build some volume, but you don't need a lot. I will add quite a bit more water right before I start shaving to really slicken it up. And I don't know if the camera can show how slick this is, but it's oil slick, if that makes sense. Okay, so now we're ready to set up for our first pass. as far as shaving. Now, once again, blade shatter can happen for the reasons I spoke of earlier, but it can also happen in the technique that you're using. Now, I use a different method than some as far as my straight shaving is concerned. Also, always keep the blade wet as you're going through your strokes. A lot of people do that by wiping it on a sponge, which is what I do. But the initial pass, go ahead and warm the blade up. The blade is made up of molecules. As you warm those molecules, they'll start to expand. And it does make for a little bit softer feel. Now, I use the Chementz method of razor shaving, so you may go straight like this. But the key is if you put the blade flat against your skin, raise it up just enough to be past one spine length, that should be fine and you shouldn't have any blade shatter whatsoever. And whatever you do, even as you're starting, keep the blade moving. A stopped straight edge is asking for a cut. So let's see what happens. And today we're using Tundra Arctica, as I said. Because it's been rather cool here, and it just allows itself to do that. Now, wonderful shave so far. The hydration is nice. And there's absolutely no blade shatter whatsoever. Now, believe me, I've had it. And I've had it for all the reasons that I explained earlier. And some of the worst injuries I've had are because of it. So the key is keeping your face well hydrated, getting the oil in your sebaceous glands, to express itself, and technique. And even with 1,030, 29 shaves right in there, I still have hiccups. Murphy still visits me. But the next part of it, as far as blade shatter is concerned, is what you do right here. Most people will go right back and start lathering again, thinking that, oh, well, you've got some residual soap on there, it's going to make it slicker. Well, the soap is evaporated and dried a little bit, so why not wet your face, rinse it, get the sebaceous glands going again. Now you see the face is wet. Now come back and add your lather. Now the nice thing about this is you won't have to add any more water, plus your sebaceous glands are releasing a little bit more oil. And like I said, it does not have to be thick. As long as it's really slick and wet, and sometimes I'll add a little bit more water, even on the second pass, to where it's almost drippy. You don't have to have that voluminous lather that, that we see so often with the DE and so forth. Okay, so once again, I will always lay the blade flat against my skin and then rotate up. Now, whether you wipe your blade on a sponge or whether you rinse it with warm water, that's up to you. I prefer a sponge because I don't like to waste water. Especially out here in the desert. Also, the key is if you start to feel the blade shatter, do not push through it. Back off, take the blade off your skin, and come at it again. Because it will bite. Okay, pass 2 is done. Once again, I have not rinsed, or excuse me, I have not put lather back on my face without rinsing. And I'll do the same thing here. Now, once again, I cold water shave because I know how my face reacts. So once again, I keep my face almost sopping wet when I go into the third lather. Now, I also work this in for one last time to see if I can coax any final oil or sebum from the sebaceous glands. Now, admittedly, SV soaps make it easy. For me, I have not found a slicker, better face feel on any soaps. Now, granted, I'm biased and most of you know that. But even with that small load, I've already done 3 passes, and I'll show you at the end of the shave how much soap I have left, and that's adding a little bit of water in between each one, because what I'll do is I'll do the final, I'll add that water just to glisten it up to make it slick, and then we'll go on to pass number 3. And please understand that I'm not preaching. I'm not telling anybody how to do their shave. It's your shave. But there are certain tips and tricks that work for that. And for blade shatter, this is one of them. A good number of you have asked and know, because I put it in my journal, how I maintain my blades. As I don't necessarily hone a lot, other than the ones I hone for clients. But I do have a maintenance regimen that I use, and usually that's 15 laps on the English linen, followed by 50 laps prior to the shave on leather, and then post shave I'll do 25 laps on the linen, followed by 50 laps on the leather. Then I will go to my Transarc or my Black Arkansas for 30 laps. Or until it sticks. And then strop some more. I found that keeps my blades in tip-top condition. And I can tell you based on how it's feeling so far, this is probably going to be most definitely a Grail shave, and possibly one of the top 5 that I've ever had. Okay, so we'll do some cleanup once again. I'm rinsing. I'll do just a tad bit of cleanup. Now, I do want to show you, we loaded for what, 35, 40 seconds maybe? And this soap is slick. That's how much soap I have left. Now, usually I'll wipe that on my face, but for purposes of this one, we'll say goodbye to it and let the sewer gods have it. So, just a little bit of cleanup. And with this smaller blade, it's almost like cleaning up with a DE. Extremely maneuverable, I should say. And getting some of those hairs. And just as important as the not blade shattering, the post shave is just as important. I know you guys know that I already use the Lucky Tiger. Some people don't like it because they say it smells too medicated. I personally think it's wonderful. And it also gives me an idea, because of the menthol and mint, how well I did on the shave. Because if it lights me up, then I know. Now yesterday in my shave, I did not use a cold towel. Today I will, just for purposes of the fact that I got a towel sitting right here. And once again, I do it the same way. Cools the skin, finishes the shave, and then I'll do a final cold water rinse. And that's it. So I hope that that the discussion of blade shatter, those little things helped. But the key is prep, keeping hydrated on your skin, the correct angle, and getting those sebaceous glands to really express themselves. We're going to use some of the Tundra Arctica aftershave. And if you haven't tried the SV aftershaves, they're all natural, including natural alcohols. 1 to 2 drops is all you need, as it will replenish some of those oils. And the smell is just out of this planet. It's just good stuff all the way around. And we'll finish off with Civet, Zoologist. This is very animalistic. And yes, it smells like coffee and cats. No, I'm kidding. It's just a very wonderful, musky aroma. So that's it. If you have any questions, please comment below. This is Zeno Straight Shaver, also known as Handlebar Dave on Instagram. And we hope you enjoyed the video. And have a great day. And thank you for being members of the Shave Cadre Forum.